As President-elect Donald Trump's unprecedented comments on the U.S. dollar. He told the Wall Street Journal that the dollar is, quote, too strong and it is killing us. Now, these comments are moving markets this morning. We are under pressure in terms of equities this morning. Having said that, he was largely talking about the dollar versus the Chinese yuan. Joining us right now is former Arkansas governor and Republican presidential candidate Mike Huckabee. Governor, always great to see you. Your thoughts on Donald Trump's commentary about the dollar, really once again breaking tradition. Normally, you never hear officials say what they want in terms of the dollar. They avoid it.
Well, I think we can get used to Donald Trump doing a lot of things that have never been done before by a president. I mean, that's one thing we can just mark down, put a big exclamation point. And this is yet another example. He's going to be a person who will speak his mind, speak bluntly, clearly, unfiltered. And in a way, it's kind of refreshing. I think he was specifically talking, as you mentioned, in comparison to the Chinese yuan and how it's had an impact on U.S. goods, what they cost, and the trade imbalances that we have. Clearly, he made this very clear through the campaign. He wants to get back to where free trade is truly free trade, but it's fair trade. And we're getting the same kind of deals on our end that our trading partners are getting. And by the way, if I could make an observation, Theresa May's comments in her speech, if it were turned into a Beatles song, it would be The Long and Winding Road. Wonderful speech, but it reminded me that the Brits do like to express themselves fully, and they're not used to the American short attention span.
Dagan McDowell, it sounded a lot like Donald Trump and what he's trying to do from Theresa May, I've got to say.
It did. But Governor Huckabee, I want to point out a Wall Street Journal editorial today, and free and trade don't go together if you're in the Donald Trump administration. The Journal asserts that this is the most anti-trade team of presidential policy advisors since the 1920s, and we know how that ended. I think you can say Great Depression after that. But the markets might be underestimating the further of his anti-trade warriors and his determination to use tariffs and other import barriers against China in particular, but not just China alone, even friendly trading partners.
With great respect to the Wall Street Journal, and I'm a subscriber, I think their policies on trade have come from the bubble in which they live, and they clearly have not understood that a lot of Americans have lost wages and jobs because of unfair trade deals. The steel industry in this country is a great example of how prices have been pushed artificially low by the Chinese dumping steel into the marketplace, highly subsidized steel, routing some of their steel through Vietnam to claim that it really wasn't Chinese steel. And the result has been devastating for U.S. companies, not because they weren't competitive, but because the field had been tilted. I mean, it was like the referees had decided to put on a team jersey. And so, you know, I know the criticism that Donald Trump is a protectionist, but look at what's happening. Carrier, Ford, GM, Walmart, you have all these companies who are saying they're going to put new investments in the U.S., they're going to build more things here, partly because the business environment is going to be more friendly, both environmentally and economically. But let's give Donald Trump a chance. The trade kind of attitude we've had has been devastating to manufacturing. Let's give him a chance and see what he can do. He can't make it worse than it's been over the past 40 years as we've seen those jobs decline.
And we saw that news this morning, Governor. Walmart announcing that it wants to create 10,000 jobs in the U.S. this year, touting American job growth ahead of the president-elect's inauguration. John Hilsenrath, Walmart's on a growing list.
We also are talking about Ford, we're talking about GM, we're talking about Carrier, but in many of these cases, and we were just talking about this earlier in the Monsanto deal, does this lead to a quid pro quo? Are companies going to be coming to Washington and saying, what are we going to get in return for these jobs we're creating?
One thing I'll point out, John, though, as well, and we've always said this about talking about markets, with Donald Trump talking specifically about the dollar, and when he's negative about a company, it can drive down the stock price. He has always been concerned about his polls. Well, there's no greater poll than the stock market and investors at reacting immediately to something that someone says, or bigger picture, their policies.
I'd like to bring this back to the governor and talking about the dollar. So conservatives have very often favored a strong dollar. They've talked about, for instance, pegging the value of the dollar to the value of gold. They've been very supportive of a strong U.S. currency. What do you make of a president now coming in and saying that the currency is too strong? Does that go against your views on how this economy works?
No, again, I think Donald Trump is speaking specifically about the dollar and its relationship to the Chinese currency that he has long said, and I think accurately, has been manipulated. And that's one of the reasons we've had such an incredibly hard time in, an equal trade deal with the Chinese. So I think one thing we always have to get used to with Donald Trump, when he reduces his communications to 140 characters in a tweet, we may not get the full version, and that may come later. I think one of the things I would like to see the markets do is to be a little patient and not react so immediately to a tweet, and get the maybe the Theresa May extended release version.
This was an interview with the Wall Street Journal. It wasn't a tweet. Let me ask you, do you support a strong dollar? Do you think that that should be the policy of the United States, a strong U.S. currency?
I like a strong dollar for the sense that it makes, American buying power great wherever we go across the globe. But again, I want to say specifically, I think what Trump was speaking of was the relationship to other currencies, particularly those that have been manipulated and driven artificially low, so that it gives a favor to the other trading partner.
Let me ask you real quick before you go, Governor. What do you have to say to all those, 40-plus Democrats who say they're going to boycott the inauguration this week?
It's great. It just gives more seats to the people who actually want to be there. I don't think anybody will miss them, and I think it's an incredibly petulant response to a free and fair election. And I wish they would listen to Hillary at the Las Vegas debate when she said that the thought that we would question the legitimacy of the election was horrifying and appalling, and maybe they should go back and listen to those comments by their leader, Hillary.
Yeah, or maybe Michelle, when they go low, we go high. So you're going low or you're going high by boycotting the inauguration. Thank you, Governor. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you.